probably hear the birds in the background. I was on my way to the studio today and I got tied up. Just feeding the ducks at the park. So, yeah, we'll head her over there right now. Hang in there. There, finally back at the studio. You know, it's kind of nice to have this studio to work in and have a park out back that we can just go visit the ducks.
I see black.
So, you still see black? Yeah, you'll see black for a bit, and then you should see the studio. So yeah, so we're back in the studio here, and it's amazing, you know, what we can present as real, and what we present as illusions. And illusions are one of the things that we talked about in our last discussion when we spoke about religious leaders and how they will take things and make them appear real. So that's kind of what the studio is. It's a little bit of a technology trick. I'm not going to call it a magic trick at all because everyone uses this technology. Green screen, they call it. So enjoy the just the disbelief, just disconnect your realism just for a moment and ride with us in the studio here and pretend that it's all real, and then it's a lot more fun. So here we go. I'm gonna disappear. We're gonna pull the band out here, and I think they're where are they? You guys over there? Here they are. So we got the band pulled out here, and now what do we have happening in the studio today here? Well, let's just roll with it and see what comes about. See what these guys do. I'm gonna leave the screen for a bit here. So I'm gonna shut my mic off, and I'll let the band take over. There. I should be back on now. Well, I hope you enjoyed the introduction there from the band. They like to get out and just sing a few tunes. So we'll put the band away for a bit here, and we'll get a little bit serious on the show. Now I am fighting my afternoon sun in the studio here, so we have sun peeking in. You notice a little bit on my screen. So from time to time, I will just kind of move things a bit. It seems to change my camera or something. So how's everyone been since the last show? Now this show's going to be a little different because it's a little earlier, and we chose this time so that we could appeal to the people on the East Coast here in Canada. That's perhaps 3.5 hours difference. It could be 8:30 there, and if we're on the West Coast, British Columbia here in Canada, you're probably 4 o'clock. So and that would follow the USA as well. Now, if you're in Australia, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So we picked this time. We thought it would be a good time demographics, and I can see there's a lot of people online. So welcome everyone to the show. We invite all you guys to chat, and we're going to try some new features this show. We're going to try some of the YouTube features. It's where you put up a question, and I start a question. What would my question be for the show today? Today is, what is your Goliath? There's the question. I'll start that. What is your Goliath? So that question is there. And live chat again. So there we go. So that's a question to keep in mind as we talk a little bit on this show. Now, you remember when King David, he went up against his Goliath. What did he have? He had this little polished stone he used. And that was King David's Goliath. So he had some challenges. He had this. He was supposed to be the next king, of course, but he was just this little guy. And he got into the army, and he was probably a water boy or something. But every time they went out to battle, there was this Goliath. And this Goliath, he worked for the Philistine army. That's who he sided with. And no one could beat him. So one day, little David, he got his stone, got his little polished stone, and he went out. And no one knew he was going out there, but he went out there and he swung his stone, threw it at the giant. And sure enough, that stone hit the right place. And the giant let his guard down because here this little guy was coming at him, and he put his shield down, and he said, "Well, come and get me." And he swung his stone and swung it. And that's what happens when a Goliath lets their guard down, and they do often with a little guy. But that's not really what we're talking about here. You could take that and use that illustration in so many different ways. But what happened to David when Goliath fell, and everyone was cheering, and finally that was the end of the Goliath for the Israelite army? David came back, and he sang songs, and he played the harp, and he wrote poetry, and he wrote some of the greatest works in the Bible. So David, when he fell his Goliath, it made a difference in his life. And that's what can happen when we fall our Goliath, getting out of the watchtower. that's a huge Goliath. That's a giant for most of us. And we sometimes have to have a stone. Now you see this little stone I have here. It's a stone that says love, and when we fling this around, that changes our world. We throw out stones of love. So it's Christ-like. That's now taken it over to being a Christian, a follower of Christ. And that's what happened, I guess, on my journey a bit, as I transitioned from, we learned a lot in the Bible as a Jehovah's Witness, but there was a lot of stuff there that had twists. Everything had little twists to it, so that it could paint a certain story. So for a lot of us coming out, this has caused cognitive dissonance, and it has caused some issues within ourselves, and we're going to discuss that in some length today. Not great length. Just so you know, I'm not a physician, doctor. I have no degrees in medical, but I just do a lot of research, and so I stick to the research, read through it. I posted this research on the description below, so you can see where it comes from. But what I do have is I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I was in the Jehovah's Witness religion for 30 years and out now for about 12 years, but only out mentally for the last year and a few months. So it takes a lot of work to get out mentally. I found that when I was in it for 30 years, and I got out, but I didn't debrief. And we talked about that in some of our other videos, the importance of debriefing. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. Now we're going to move on here to a survey. And I'm going to give you a screen capture here on the survey we did, because a lot of times we do these surveys and it's nice for you guys to see the, let me see if I can give you a better screen capture than that. No. Oh. Yeah, we'll go with that one. There. Now, over here on this survey, I don't know if you can read that behind me. When I look at the screen, it looks like it's very blurry, but maybe you can see it. But this is a survey, the last one we did. I would like to know more about, please check one, the Bible's truth in comparison to the Watchtower's claimed truth. So 64% said that they would like to do that. Then the next question was, I'd like to know more about the skeptical parts of the Bible, what may or may not be true. 15% figured that. Then we talked about the 7 stars of Revelation and the pantheon of gods. 15% were interested in that. And then my own stories, 6%. So the mass majority of the people are interested in the Bible's truths in comparison to the Watchtower's claimed truth. There's a reason why the mass majority chose this answer, because probably most of our audience is ex-Jehovah's Witness. So as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, we automatically want to figure out our beliefs. We want to change our beliefs, and we want to know why our beliefs are a certain way. So that's why we chose the Bible's truth in comparison to the Watchtower's truth. We were in the Watchtower for however many years. I was in it for a lot of years. And so when we come out, it depends on how deep our indoctrination is. If we were a person within the Watchtower and we did a lot of studying and we went to the Watchtower bound volumes on many, many occasions to figure things out in life, then the indoctrination becomes a lot deeper. If we're in the Watchtower and we went to the internet and doctors and different things for our research, and we were more moderate about religion, then our indoctrination is not that deep, and perhaps it's just like going from one religion to another, perhaps. But for a lot of us, we perhaps were raised in the Watchtower, and if you're raised in the Watchtower, then your indoctrination is multi-generation perhaps, and is very deep. especially if you got out after many years. So, so this is why I believe that a lot have chosen this, is because they want to undo that truth. So that's what we're going to work on here, is cognitive dissonance. Tell me everything I need to know about cognitive dissonance. So I'm gonna get rid of the screen. It's I'm just gonna read through this, and if you want to see some pictures, where's my screen capture, anyways? I'll show you the first picture. It just shows a little guy here looking with a question mark. There's really nothing here in this article. You know, there was a lady there concerned about anxiety. You can take a quiz. So that's worth trying. We're going to talk about this. Where did the term come from? There's some other clicks here I did on neuroticism. I pulled that out in some different articles here. So depending on the time we have, we might not look at this. Cognitive dissonance is what we're looking at today. How can it impact the choices we make? What are the signs you might be experiencing cognitive dissonance? And what can you do to ease cognitive dissonance? So we're going to go over those questions here, and I'm going to get rid of this. So as we're going over this article and you're thinking about it, think about your Goliath, because as we examine this, we'll find that this is something in our brain that's causing a conflict. It could be our Goliath, a giant inside of us. We just can't get through this, get over this. So what is cognitive dissonance? Is it a bad thing or a good thing, and how can it be resolved? Here are clear answers to your questions, plus how to find peace if you are struggling with inner turmoil. What exactly does cognitive dissonance mean? Let's say you've been exercising, excuse me, like a boss, and paying for the virtual training sessions, jogging through your neighborhood, and conquering any hiking trail within a 5-mile radius, and eating healthy, all in a quest to drop that quarantine 15 pounds. And then you go food shopping and spot a tub of edible cookie dough, which you put into your cart thinking you'll have just one spoonful here and there. Even though you buy it, you know you shouldn't have because, well, sabotage. And that's what the discomfort, the guilt, the shame, it starts to settle in. This is cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict that occurs when your beliefs don't line up with your actions. It's an uncontrollable state of mind when someone has contradictory values, attitudes, perspectives about the same thing. The degree of discomfort varies with the subject matter, as well as how well the person copes with self-contradiction. Another example of cognitive dissonance, and perhaps some of you in the audience are experiencing this right now. I experienced this when I left Jehovah's Witness religion. And it's just what happened. So here it is. I'm ashamed of it to talk about this, but it happened. I left the religion. Now, what I do, my caveat is prior to getting into the religion, I did have this habit. But when I left the religion, I started up this habit again. But I only did it for 2 years. And here it is. Another example is a smoker who knows very well that nicotine causes lung cancer, but takes a puff after puff away to ease anxiety in the moment, and then feels a sense of shame and guilt. There's some sort of discrepancy between what your values are and what you feel in that moment. So that's actually a study that they did at School of Medicine in Pennsylvania. Or what happens when a vegan who purchases a leather bag, the environmentally conscious guy who buys a car that runs on gas, and the list goes on. I know I went through that when I started the solar industry. I thought I should sell everything and buy an electric car. That's how this cognitive dissonance works. We leave the Jehovah's Witness religion, we have it, but we somehow complicate it, and we build more of it up in our own brains. It seems like it's like attracts like, and it happens inside. So let's carry on. While cognitive dissonance in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, when people avoid dealing with mental discomfort unless the issue resolves on its own, which is usually unlikely with the inner conflict, it can lead to problems down the road, says the doctor. Researchers believe it is not an automatic feeling we get when we have contradictory beliefs. We experience it only when we are aware there is an inconsistency. So I thought the smoking was a good example. We're hacking and coughing away, but just taking that puff, and we know it's not good for us. So cognitive dissonance. And that leads to another subject, which is addictions. And I did pull up an article on addictions, and it's huge. The addiction part is alive all of its own. So you guys let me know if you want to cover addictions. I'll just look at it. I'll just show you briefly here, but I could cover it next week if we had to. But your brain addictions is huge, and we can be addicted to the religion. It's dopamine. So if we go to the Kingdom Hall and we get good feelings, we get addicted to going to the Kingdom Hall. If we go out in service and let's say we're good at placing magazines, and we're good at getting return visits and all that stuff, it creates dopamine. And that's why everyone wants to maybe be a pioneer, because you get better at it, you get comfortable, and dopamine. So the addictions are huge. We all work on addictions. And I'm just going down this article, how different substances affect different neurotransmitters in our brain. And it goes on to talk about nicotine, cannabis, opioids, hallucinogens, and the works, and how the brain responds in withdrawals, how the brain chemistry works. And then there's a lot of addictions. I didn't realize all the addictions. And there's articles on every one of these addictions. And this is Psychom Conditions, Wellness Resources. This is a resource for everyone. And gambling addictions, addiction treatment, drinking and driving addictions, binge drinking, friends with drinking problems, my addiction recovery story, sex addiction. Nowadays people are getting called out on sex addictions, especially when they travel to these countries where they use children. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. It's not because I smoke. I quit that long ago. Back in 2012 I left, 2013, 2014. By 2014 I quit. Addictions, yeah. So, and nicotine is a bad addiction, a really bad addiction. Now, we're going to go back to cognitive dissonance, and you guys let me know if you want to cover addictions. Where did the term come from, cognitive dissonance? And we're going to get rid of that because I can hide my poor lighting on the dark background. Where did it come from? Well, way back in 1957, psychologist Leon Fretzner coined the term. That would become a groundbreaking experiment. Him and his colleagues asked 71 subjects to engage in some snooze-worthy task, like turning the pegs in a pegboard for an hour. They were paid either $1 or $20 to tell a waiting participant that the test was fun. Okay? We're going to compare this to being a Jehovah's Witness here in a second. Afterward, when the subjects were asked to evaluate the experience, those who were paid $1 rated it as more fun than those who were paid $20. Can you believe that? So here's an experience they did, and this is back in 57 when they termed cognitive dissonance. So they got these subjects to just put these pegs in a board, and they paid some of them $1 an hour, and they paid the other ones $20 an hour. Now, guess what happens? Like, if you're in the $20 an hour, you'd be happy, right? It's not what happened. Afterward, when the subjects were asked to evaluate the experiment, those who were paid $1 rated it as more fun than those who were paid $20. Why? It says confusing, right? What the experiment showed was that the subjects paid $1 experienced dissonance. Why? Because $1 wasn't enough to warrant lying, so they, in effect, convinced themselves that the task was actually enjoyable. Whereas because the $20 group believed the amount was enough to lie, they didn't experience dissonance. They thought they got paid enough money to tell a lie. But the $1 people, they didn't feel it was enough to lie, so they had to pretend that it was fun. And isn't that what going to the Kingdom Hall? You can't tell me going door to door, knocking on a stranger's door at 9 o'clock in the morning is enjoyable. But yet, the Jehovah's Witnesses have this great big smile on their face when you go to that door. Cognitive dissonance. To break it down further, the dissonant, and okay, the Jehovah's Witnesses aren't paid to show up at that door. Now, if you were paid $20 an hour to show up at that door and knock at the door, let's say for a political campaign or something, you were paid there, you'd be at that door. You might not be smiling. You're getting paid to be at that damn door at 9 in the morning, and you're there and doing your job, and you feel okay about it. But the Jehovah's Witnesses are happy that they're at your door, and they're not even getting paid. It's costing them money to show up at your door. It's costing them gas in their gas tank and time out of their pocket. But they're happy. Cognitive dissonance. You can't be happy. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses should be showing up at the door, and you say, I came to this damn door. I'm pissed off. I couldn't sleep in this morning. And it's just that governing body, they like to think they're God. It just blows me away. But here's these damn Watchtower and the Awakes. Here they are. I don't want to get disfellowship, so I'm at your door. And I would suggest just take them. They're free now, and throw them in the garbage. It's just weight in my bag. See you later. You see, that's being real. That's being real. That's how a Jehovah's Witness should feel about the whole thing. But they don't. They lie to themselves, and they're really happy that they're at the door. It's confusing, right? You remember when you went to the door as a Jehovah's Witness, so I'm not telling you anything new. To break it down further, the dissonance occurred between the dollar group's cognition. They really didn't want to lie. And their behavior, they actually did lie. See, there's it. See, the Jehovah's Witness knocking on your door at 9 in the morning, drug their kids out of bed, fighting with a baby perhaps, mom's in the car with the baby crying, dad's doing the door with the other kids. No one's happy. But everyone walks to that door with a smile. Yeah. So they didn't want to lie, but their behavior, they actually did lie. So we lied. When we went to the door, I know I lied. I can speak for me. I lied every day. I lied lots going to the door. And that was the cognition portion of it. So it says performing a task that's inconsistent with someone's beliefs is known as forced compliance. So you see, we would force ourselves to go to the door. We would force ourselves to go out in service. We would force ourselves to go to the meetings. And then we would, when the song came on, we would force ourselves to read the words, and sometimes we wouldn't even sing them. We would just pretend we're singing. Forced compliance, because we didn't want to get disfellowship. We didn't want to lose association. We didn't want to, there's a lot of reasons that keep us doing these things. And in order to reconcile the inconsistent behavior with their beliefs, they reduced the dissonance they felt by changing their attitude toward the actions. So how do we do that? Well, we reported that it was fun. that our actions, that our ministry was fun. Hey, how's the service? Oh yeah, we placed a few magazines, and we're at coffee. We're at McDonald's by now. It's noon, right? We put in our 2 hours. Oh yeah, we did a few calls and did some door to door. They always want you to do a bit of door to door, and that's it. We pretend it's fun rather than going for coffee and meeting with our buddies and saying, yeah, it was the biggest waste of my frickin' time I've ever had. 2 hours down the drain. I wasted half a tank of gas. They wanted me to go out to the country. No one chipped in. It's just, but I don't even know if I'm going to keep doing this bullshit. Like that would be the real way to talk about this. That's how we really felt. But no. I went to McDonald's and I reported that it was fun. That's what I did. Yeah. So here's what these guys' theory, Festinger's theory, showed. Was that people need consistency between their attitudes and behaviors, even though achieving that balance isn't always accomplished in a rational way. So they need consistency between their attitudes and behaviors. So when we were a Jehovah's Witness, you see, going to the meetings, going out in service, it gave us a routine. It gave us consistency. And, that's why we did it. What does it say here? It shows that researchers have found that differences in brain activity during a state of cognitive dissonance. Brain scans showed that decisions associated with higher levels of cognitive dissonance elicited a visible electrophysiological sign in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, the area that monitors internal conflicts and mistakes. So what they found is that under a brain scan, there's a part of our brain that actually lights up when we are under this cognitive dissonance. The scan shows that it actually shows this visible electropsychological signal, whatever that is. If you're in the healthcare industry, you'll know what that all means. So there's a link here. Click for more on neurotism. And I clicked on that. It's a little bit of a subject again. All of these are all connected. 1957 is not that long ago when they started doing research on our brains and understanding effects and making these names. So this is all new research, really. It says, what are the effects of cognitive dissonance? In the moment, cognitive dissonance can cause discomfort, stress, and anxiety. And the degree of these effects often depends on how much disparity there is between the conflicting beliefs, how much belief means to that person, as well as with how well the person copes with self-contradiction. So for instance, a vegan who fosters baby animals and volunteers at the local shelter might experience a whole lot more stress by eating meat than, let's say, someone who always talks about exercise yet never gets off the couch. So you see the difference? People may experience psychological stress because they know they should have self-compassion, but at the same time feel a deep sense of shame and regret. So as a Jehovah's Witness, there's a couple of things here, but we might feel a psychological stress knowing we knock on someone's door and no, I'm not interested. And we walk away, and they sure look like a nice family. You see the mother, the father, and the kids, and they sure talk nice, and maybe you talk to them for a little bit, but at the end of the discussion, they said, we're not going to pursue this, and so you walk away. And now you've developed some psychological stress because now in your mind, the watchtower is telling you that they're probably not going to make it at Armageddon. We are told that God is the judge, but we are also told that lots of people are going to die at Armageddon, and that people that are not Jehovah's Witnesses typically aren't going to make it. That's kind of pretty much what we're told and what's programmed into us. So we walk away, and that causes psychological stress. Maybe we're children, and we go to school and we develop some friendships with worldly kids. And maybe the parents let them stay over or do a little bit of that. We used to a little bit, but you're not supposed to as a Jehovah's Witness. You're not supposed to do that. We did. But I wasn't. I found out now I wasn't a good Jehovah's Witness, but that's okay. But anyways, the kids find it causes cognitive dissonance because now these friends at school have to die at Armageddon. That's what the religion teaches. So this is causes a lot of stress. Now, let's carry on here. Thanks to the discomfort, cognitive dissonance people may rationalize their decisions even if they go against their beliefs. So steer clear of convos about certain subjects. They'll hide their beliefs or actions from others. They'll even ignore doctor's advice. So the doctor says, well, you're going to die in 3 days. You have no white blood cells, and we're going to have to transfuse you. And you choose death. Why? Because you believed in those 9 men. In the end, all of these tactics just help them repeat the behaviors which they don't really agree with anyways. So this is what it is. It's a breathing oxymoron is what it says. So cognitive dissonance causes. So people may rationalize their decisions, even costing them their life. If you're a Jehovah's Witness and it's regarding the blood issue, it could cost your life. So now, how can it impact the choices we make? Cognitive dissonance can be problematic if you start to justify or rationalize destructive behaviors. So this is where it can be a problem. Or if you start to majorly stress yourself out by trying to rationalize the dissonance portion of it. So the doctor goes on to say, he says, I have patients who go on dating apps and tell me that all they get is rejection. I like to remind them that they've rejected some people too, and it wasn't that big of a deal. They didn't hate them. They didn't think they were disgusting. They were just like, oh, this person is not for me. But when they turn it around on themselves, they're harsher and internalize the thoughts to, I'm horrible, no one likes me, I'm just a loser. This destructive pattern of thinking reinforces the dissonance and can shape behaviors to replay out this negative cycle for the long term. So that's a good example, this dating app. And if someone tells you, so even online, as creators, we have to have a little bit of a hard shell because we get told lots of stuff. So we can't take any of it personal. And then we got to consider that people say things, maybe they had a bad day, or maybe they're coming out of the watchtower and they just come out, or let's say this is the first time they took a peek on the internet and your video happened to be one that caught their attention. They watch it and this is garbage, you're from Hitler, whatever. We get that, but it's okay because we understand as creators, or we should understand, people come out in stages, and we did too, so it's all okay. Now, let's carry on here. They gave the example of dating apps and thinking that we're not good enough. So let's take that to the Kingdom Hall. So we might go out, and I had this in my own family, and it was a problem. But we see this, you go up in the service, well, I'm not good enough. I can't do those calls. I never can place the magazines. I have no return visits. I've never had a Bible study. I can't do this. It's too hard. So we get this rejection, and maybe we had someone slam the door in our face once. But it doesn't mean we're a bad person. It doesn't mean that we don't know enough, or it just means maybe that person had a bad day. So it can affect us. And, you get maybe you get a whole morning where you get doors slammed in your face, but whoever's with you, they get all the calls, they place all the magazines. Why does that happen? When you're a Jehovah's Witness. Well, it's in life. What we put out comes back to us. So if we put out real, honest energy, not that fake smile, if we just have that plastic smile on when we go out into life, and this is not just about the kingdom hall, this is about life. When we go out into life and it's real and it feels real, then we get real results back. We get the same results back. So what we put out comes back to us. So, and a lot of it is, my wife and I had this discussion today too. As people, we progress through life. So when we're 14, 15, 16, we're not going to have the same results of someone that's 60. We just don't have all those years of experience. So it takes time, and a lot of it's just patience with ourselves. Okay, carry on. Not many of us go into something going, hey, I really like to challenge my belief about this today. We usually like to stick to our beliefs. That's kind of how we are. People resolve the dissonance by finding more information to confirm what they want to believe instead of trying to challenge it in a different way, which ends up just confirming the bias. So now, and this is what happens, so we're Jehovah's Witness, we're in the religion, maybe we're kind of in and kind of out a little bit. And maybe we're peeking out there, well, maybe there's something that will prove the way I think, or prove the way the Jehovah's Witnesses think, prove my belief, you see. So sometimes we go out and we look for ways to just prove what I want to believe. Or now we get out of the religion, and we've proven to ourselves that Rutherford is not the truth, the way, the life. It's actually Jesus. He stole it. He was a thief. But anyways, he made a religion out of it. And we now realize that. So we're out of the religion, but now we still want to believe in Jesus. We still want to be Christian, but we don't know what to do. So maybe we start looking around and we still want to believe in something. And so this is where we can cause some issues too, because we can jump from one pot into another. So everyone has to figure this out. We need to challenge our beliefs. So here's the key. So if we quit challenging our beliefs, and I know this is what the Watchtower says we shouldn't do, but we need to challenge our beliefs, and we can show the Watchtower. The ancient Bereans, when Paul went and seen them, they challenged their beliefs in order to look at Paul's beliefs, and a few of them became believers. But they challenged it, they compared it to the Bible. So you can use that back at the Jehovah's Witnesses. The same as we were taught to use that with the people at the door that were Catholic. We would show them that scripture in about the ancient Bereans. So in the same sense, cognitive dissonance will stop us from challenging our own beliefs. You see, we'll use that scripture about the ancient Bereans to get a Catholic or to get a Protestant to look at our religion, but we won't use that same concept for us to look outside of our belief system. And that's when we're running into a problem. So we get out, we start looking around at other religions. We don't want to get trapped into believing this is it. No, this is it. No, okay, this is it. And I did that for a bit. I was looking around and okay, this looks close. Okay, this looks close. But the truth of the matter is everything out there is semi-fictional. It's theory, a lot of theory. Isn't that where the word theology comes from? Theory? I think it does. It's all a theory, theology. And it's what people think. And they have these books. Jesus never said to write anything down. He said, love, just love. And love's not the easiest thing. There's a lot of little things that make us, why aren't we being loving? And it could be cognitive dissonance. We're having trouble with something simple, making it complicated. So now we're going to look at that next. What are the signs that you might be experiencing cognitive dissonance? Here it is. General discomfort that has no obvious or clear source. General discomfort. So if you're feeling uncomfortable all the time and you can't pin it, it could be this cognitive dissonance. Confusion. Perhaps you're feeling confused. I know I was confused when I wasn't really confused when I left because I just wanted to get out, but I didn't look at the Bible. But then 10 years later, this is like a year ago, I started looking at it again. I got a little bit confused, and it took some work. So confusion, yeah. Feeling conflicted over a disputed subject matter. I had a lot of that, even as a Jehovah's Witness, as a non-Jehovah's Witness, feeling conflicted over a disputed subject matter. As you can ask my wife, as we started uncovering different things, and I started journalizing, writing everything down, and soon turned into a book, and it became the remedy for helping me to undo a lot of this cognitive dissonance. And I wrote it down as 9 measures, and I wrote 9 measures down because Jesus says whatever you measure out will be measured back. So I kind of created a little story where it was a judicial case, a court case, and I got to see Rutherford and Russell be put on trial, and then everything came out. So for me to do this, I had to research Russell and Rutherford, and I had to find out a lot of information about the founders and then put that into a story. And so these guys came out. Jesus and the apostles were interrogating them through like a crown prosecutor. And it was a good story. So then at the end, there was 9 measures, and where they failed is they stole the word truth and judging. Those are Jesus's things. They stole that, and they said, no, we're the truth, and we can judge. And so Jesus actually said to Rutherford, you can go back to undo this and fix it. So he sent him back, and that was kind of the story. So through the process, through the 9 measures, I had to figure out what was true and what was false and where all the twists were within the Jehovah's Witness doctrine. So it was really good for me as an exercise. And that helped me to release this conflicted subject matter that was conflicted in my mind. And as I was doing it, I did get angry and I was confused. And there was discomfort. And you can ask my wife. Every day, it was like a layer of the onion coming off. And it hurt. It hurt to admit that I was in a cult once I finally got to that point of realizing it. It hurt me to realize I was a narcissist. And I have narcissistic tendencies if I'm not careful. It hurt me to admit that. But we have to admit these things. And we have to admit them to ourselves first. And sometimes we have to do the research and figure it out to figure out if we're suffering or dealing with these things. Now, people saying that you're being a hypocrite. So that's a huge thing. It was for me to be called an apostate. And I had a hard time accepting that. And my wife helped me to understand that these are just words. These are words that I've allowed these words to hold power within my head. There's the Goliath, is the words. So which word allows you, it's a big Goliath in your head that is used against you. You apostate, or you're disfellowshipped, or you're demonized, Like these are just words. But we can allow these to be Goliaths in our head. And that's where we have to use the stone. And we have to use the stone of love. So the stone of love helps us to not kill these ones that are throwing these words at us. When we throw the stone of love at them, we realize that they're people. And they're people that are confused with cognitive dissonance themselves. We, like King David, once we knock down our Goliath, we're writing poetry, we're singing, we're dancing, we're feeling good, we're released. And once we're released of that Goliath that's holding us down, that's weighting us down, well, then we can dance. And that's part of it, friends. That's really that simple. It's not complicated, but it's hard. So people saying that you're being a hypocrite, that's a really tough one. So being aware of conflicting views and or desired but not know what to do with them. So if you're aware of you have these views that are conflicting, but you don't know what to do with them. So developing a sense of inner conflict is a good thing to notice because it can lead to rigid beliefs and sudden changes in beliefs and behaviors, says Dr. Brenner. If completing values, beliefs, attitudes, etc. are not resolved or integrated, it greatly inhibits the ability of groups to have constructive dialogue, making it difficult, if not impossible, to arrive at a satisfactory compromise, he says. So let's say you're in a business and you're meeting in a boardroom with a bunch of people, or let's say you're a jury and you're deciding on the fate of someone's life, and you've been called to your jury duty. I don't know if that has ever happened to you. It hasn't happened to me, but you could get together and have conflicting, competing beliefs, attitudes, etc. And if we're not open to, in our minds, to going outside of our beliefs and examining from other people's viewpoints, from other religions, from other nations, then we stay within that cognitive dissonance. And I found when I got outside of the religion, outside of the Jehovah's Witness religion, I did at first want to jump into something really quick, but we just kept researching and researching and researching, and then we found that the Bible itself says that God is not partial. God is a God of love, and all of those on the earth that fear God and love God are in a good place. Jesus, being a Christian, okay? Now, we think of being a Jehovah's Witness. It's not like being a Christian. It's a Jehovah's Witness. It's a witness of Jehovah. So now a Christian is a follower of Christ, something different. You see, so a witness of Jehovah is really something else. It's almost like a Jew, almost, because they're about Yahweh, YHWH. They don't say it, but it's like they got into that territory, witness of Jehovah. And then Jesus gets just kind of brushed over memorial season. And then he goes away and it's all about Jehovah all the way through the year. So, but that's not what a Christian is. All the other Christian religions, it's about Christ. So my advice and what I did, and it worked for me, is I just started with the Gospels, the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And we go over all of those. And I wrote a lot about that, and it really changed my viewpoint on a lot of things. And we'll talk about that on another show. So developing a sense of inner conflict, going outside of our belief and being able to examine it from other people's perspective is being tolerant of one another. But it's really helps us to get out of this cognitive dissonance. Okay, so let's carry on. The good news is resolving cognitive dissonance can often lead to positive changes, and it's not always about making huge changes. Sometimes a little shift in perspective can go a long way towards healthier thought patterns. The key is identifying it, assessing it, and figuring out how to resolve it. You have to identify which values are yours and which values are someone else's. So there's one of the keys. Which values are you going to take home and which values are the watchtowers or the governing bodies? Because you don't have to adopt their values inside you. Take what you want, what you learned out of the Bible, and apply that and keep those values. And if you're taking on someone else's values, then you have to ask yourself why. So for example, if someone says, I can't believe you would spend money on a housekeeper, or I can't believe that you would give the organization that much money when we're that broke and we can't even afford our mortgage. Could you imagine? And that's happening right now because they're always asking for money. So if someone says, I can't believe you would spend money on a housekeeper, you would have to figure out what your values are and what's important to you. And then you have to be okay with them. So Gallagher says, the doctor says, sometimes There's not a right or wrong. It's what's best for you and this time in your life. So I thought that was interesting, because even though I would say don't give all your money to the Watchtower, maybe that's the best thing for you to do right now in your life, which I'd still say don't give your money to the Watchtower. Give it to the food bank if you want to help people. But maybe that wasn't a bad example, but with a housekeeper, maybe the person could afford a housekeeper, or maybe the person, the husband and the wife are both working. The kids they're getting older and they all have part-time jobs, and maybe there's a big house and maybe someone needs a job and everyone can afford a housekeeper. That's not out of range. So what someone else thinks is not best for you doesn't mean it's not best for you. You have to make that decision and be okay with it, not let them get you down. So dissonance can be reduced by changing existing beliefs, adding new beliefs, or minimizing the importance of beliefs. Take, for instance, the example proposed: a heavy smoker who knows smoking is bad for his health will experience dissonance because he continues to puff away. So he can reduce the dissonance by quitting smoking, changing his beliefs on the effect of smoking has on his health, that it doesn't cause lung cancer. So you could quit smoking, or you could change your beliefs, say, yeah, it's all crap. It doesn't cause, I know this guy that died at 99 years old and he smoked his whole life. Like, you hear these stories, right? But what do I know? Thirdly, add a new belief by looking for the positive effects of smoking. That's what I did. I said, well, I'm so stressed out. I quit the religion. I went through a divorce and I'm gaining weight. I was gaining weight. And so I started smoking, just because I was eating bad, and I was eating potato chips and stuff like that, and McDonald's and things like that. So and then when I would go home, I would snack on stuff all the time, because I went through this big life change. No more religion, no more family. It was just me. And I started smoking. And my uncle lived with me, and he smoked. He was a chain smoker, my uncle. So I was beat. Anyways, it reduced anxiety for me at the time. So we make our own beliefs. We justify why we do things as people. And here's the fourth thing. It says reducing the importance of the belief by convincing ourselves that the risk of smoking are minuscule compared to the risk of an automobile accident. So let's say I'm stressed out to the point where I could get in an automobile accident. Well, maybe I'm better to smoke and relax a bit, because the smoking did help me relax, I found. And it's giving that example here. So, but you get the point. Life can be complicated, and our actions and beliefs can be hard to make sense of at times. Being aware of distressing discrepancies is an important first step to addressing them, though. Something else to keep in mind is as we grow and evolve over the course of our lives, so cognitive dissonance, that we struggle to deal with, will resolve itself over time. So time can help us. So when we come out of the Watchtower and we're feeling confused, we're feeling stressed, as time goes on, don't give up on yourself. Keep believing in yourself and keep doing the research. I think a lot of it is debriefing and finding out the Watchtower says this, but really the Bible says this. You might debrief yourself right out of believing in the Bible. And there's a certain percentage of people that have, because they feel that there's just too much conflicts, too much stuff that's really not proven. And so they say, I'm just going to choose not to believe in anything, religious. And they just carry on. Good people. So don't, we don't want to take sides. There's no right or wrong answer here. But I think the important thing is that we believe in ourselves and we keep moving forward, and we keep our rock of love, our little David rock there, so that we can get that out there. So we think of the story of David, and our Goliath. So here we are. We're going to just cover this briefly here. What are we looking at? 5:59, so 6 o'clock. Yeah, so we're just into this for an hour, so we have time for this review here. Now, frequently asked questions. What is the simplest way to define cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is a mental conflict that occurs when your beliefs don't line up with your actions. It's an uncomfortable state of mind when someone has contradictory values, attitudes, or perspectives about the same thing. So let's say you're in a family and you have conflicting values about the governing body. Let's say you're in a family, maybe you're PMO and your mate's not. And you guys have these discussions and, well, I don't believe they're God's channel. Well, I believe they're God's channel. You see, these are things that can happen. So the degree of discomfort varies with the subject matter as well as with how well the person copes with self-contradiction. One example is a smoker who knows all too well that nicotine causes lung cancer, but takes a puff after puff anyway to ease his anxiety in the moment, and then feels a sense of shame. There's some sort of discrepancy between what your values are and what you feel in the moment. What are the effects of cognitive dissonance? In the moment, cognitive dissonance can cause discomfort, stress, and anxiety. And the degree of these effects often depend on how much disparity there is between the conflicting beliefs, how much the beliefs mean to a person, as well as with how well the person copes with self-contradiction. Thanks to this discomfort, people may rationalize their decision, even if they go against their beliefs, steer clear of convos about certain subjects, hide their beliefs or actions from others, or even ignore a doctor's advice. And in the end, all of these tactics just help perpetuate the behaviors which they don't really agree with anyways. So that can help happen. We go to, let's say we're younger. I remember when I was a young Jehovah's Witness and I went to work. I didn't want to tell anybody at work I was a Jehovah's Witness. I was embarrassed. And they didn't celebrate Christmas. I had to adopt this new idea. I was a year in, and it came time to the Christmas party, and I had to stay there. I don't celebrate Christmas, and I was in the circle of all my peers at work, and I felt singled out, and I didn't like it. And I can imagine how the kids feel at school about this stuff. Why can't I just celebrate Christmas? It's in the Bible. Jesus was born, the three magi, and the star, Bethlehem. Why can't we just talk about that? But no, it wasn't part of the belief system. So we end up with cognitive dissonance with something that simple. So what do we do to fix it? We go research this. And it is okay to understand Christmas. It is okay, all of these things. These were just theories and things that Rutherford put out and a whole bunch of people adopted. But we have to figure that out ourselves. Is it bad, cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance can be problematic if you start to justify or rationalize destructive behaviors, or if you start to stress yourself out by trying to rationalize the dissonance. And when cognitive dissonance goes unaddressed, it can only cause angst, but it can lead to impaired decision making. On the flip side, however, when cognitive dissonance is properly addressed, it can lead to better decisions making and greater self-awareness. So there's a lot of rewards for getting through this and just being honest with ourselves. That's what a lot of it is, being honest with ourselves. How do you know if you're experiencing cognitive dissonance? The signs you might be experiencing cognitive dissonance include discomfort of unclear origin, confusion, feeling conflicted over a disputed subject matter, people telling you you're being a hypocrite, or being aware of conflicting views and or desires but not knowing what to do with them. So we have a lot of that when we're a Jehovah's Witness and when we come out. So yeah, we deal with it. So how was this article for you guys? For me, it helped me a lot. Some of the other articles I don't think we'll get into here today. I'm not sure. Let me go to the chat line and see where we're at. Um, yeah, so we have a lot of people online. Thanks everyone for joining today and for all your comments. It's great. It's it's good that we get out and do the talking. I think and there's a lot of lives. My wife and I, we went onto YouTube, and I'm getting to know YouTube a little better. It's quite a powerful computer tool for all of us to use. And you just hit live there, and it shows all these different lives. Well, we've been listening to a little bit of jazz at night, and I don't know about you, but for me, I'm pushing 60 now. I hate to say that, but as we get older, I don't like all the music songs. The radio. I'll turn the radio on. I turn it off. It's all the same old, same old, same old. So we've been expanding our, I don't know, our getting out of the box with religion and everything else. So it seems like with music too, we've been listening to a lot of jazz at night, different musical type things, spa music, things like that. And I think that's really good, if you need music. Now, for some of us, you just go sit in the park, go sit outside and take in the music and nature. And so those are all good things to do. Um, News-wise, I was going to talk a little bit about what's happening on the news. Not much. We There was that bombing at the San Salvo Kingdom Hall, and I'm just looking on my videos here. I can show you what I'm looking at here. Yeah, right here. So there was a bombing at San Salvo. We covered that at that Kingdom Hall, and that was 8 days ago. Um, XJW takes legal. We just did a little YouTube on that. XJW YouTube creator takes legal action against 7 XJW YouTube creators. It's caused quite a kerfuffle. Not a good thing. And what caused the mass shooting? Now we tied that back into that the shooting in Hamburg. What caused it? The mass shooting. So psychological issues for sure in this guy, and added psychological issues from the Watchtower, cognitive dissonance, um, narcissism was another one we covered on our live last. Our last one was narcissism, and that was on Sunday. So we have, if you're on this show, we're also on Saturday. I shouldn't say Sunday, but it's Saturday. We're also running a live, and that's Saturday at, I think we're going to go for 2:30 because we want to just be before Rick. Yeah, we want to give people time to get over to Rick's. So we might go for 2 o'clock on Saturday, and that's a pretty good time for everyone, I think. So we've been covering off the brain of Jehovah's Witnesses, what happens inside our brains. The more we can understand about ourselves, the more we can be honest with ourselves and get out of all of these feelings that we're in. Now, sometimes to undo this cognitive dissonance, we have to do some research, and we have to find those beliefs that are inside of our minds that were put there by the Watchtower, and we got to undo them and change them. And the best way to change them is get online and visit these kinds of channels. Now, we've had some of the subscribers that ask for more Bible study, and more, not necessarily Bible study, but more of taking topics and talking about them, like why only 144,000 would go to heaven. Where is that found in the Bible? Well, it's not. But the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that. And why would everyone live on the earth? Well, it doesn't say that. But why would they say that? What about the soul, the body, and the spirit? The Bible talks about the soul being different, the spirit being different. But the Jehovah's Witnesses talk about the body and the soul being the same thing, and that they both die at death. So there's lots to talk about, but a lot of other creators talk about these things. And there's lots of places online. You can just plug in XJW. It's a community, and there's lots of selection. You can find lots of people. So what do we cover on this channel? We're delving into the brain here lately. We've been covering news. We do satires. You can go on and look on our playlists, and there's funnies and different things like that. So, having said that, we have a special guest coming on this evening, and he's going to finish the show. He's a performer, of course, keyboards and that. So we thought you guys would enjoy it. We brought him into the studio here. So now, one of the other things I was gonna for another show in correspondence to some of you out there that want to know more about the discrepancies with the Watchtower and the Bible. Well, does God exist? This is I've been doing some research, and there's lots of research you can do. This fella here is a Christian, and he really wrote a good article on does God exist. And I'll just read the first 4 lines. He says, "Millions believe God exists. Few have proof. Have you proven that God exists, or do you hope, suspect, feel, believe, think that he does? Can his existence be scientifically proven? Can you know with certainty that an all-intelligent mind created the universe and all life on earth, including you? Must the answers be accepted on faith?" So these are good questions. And so he's saying, let's squarely face each of these questions. So I'd like to talk about that perhaps on Sunday. And that would be a coming up discussion. I think this guy did a fabulous job. And I'm also, for those out there, about 19% that don't believe in God, I have an article here, New Scientists, How Many Gods Are There? And it's a short article, but it gives the other side of it. How in Hinduism, they believe that there is 330 million gods. And they're saying, well, the universe is a big place. There's lots of gods. There's lots of space. So, and yet the Bible does say that there's myriads and myriads of angels. So what's a myriad? Well, I don't know. We'd have to look that up. That'd be another Sunday discussion for Sect Sunday. So we have 2 discussions, one for the Christians and one for the not Christians, and we can look at both sides of the argument, and that is how we get rid of cognitive dissonance. We get outside and we look at it all openly, and we're not afraid. So that brings us to an end of the show, folks. We're going to now get set up here, and let me just check with my good wife and to see if there's anything else we're good to go. So thank you again, everyone, for coming online and chatting and taking the time out. And until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.